Hi there. It's October 12th, 2025. Here we go. Matt Anderson, today's social climate. And today we're going to discuss about oil prices, gold prices, the US stock market, a little bit of Donald Trump, and so on and so forth. So here we go. Let's start with oil prices. So oil prices have been languishing lately. I mean, they are getting pummeled. And there's a reason for oil prices to be pummeled. Oil prices are being pummeled because there's a lot of manipulation going on right now in the market. And it's globally orchestrated through OPEC and the EIA and all these agencies and countries in the Middle East. And every Western-controlled puppet dictator out in the Middle East is doing the U.S.'s bidding right now. And the bidding is being done by the European Western powers primarily and the United States of America through Donald Trump. The reason they are doing this, the reason they are depressing oil prices is because they are trying to hide the massive amount of inflation that is occurring within their financial systems, their respective financial systems, their national financial systems, particularly and primarily in the United States. So the United States has, 160 military bases around the world. They're out there trying to stabilize global markets at the behest of central banking, the central banking cartel that controls the world's financial systems. And this is what is going on. And right now they're trying to depress the oil price so that it doesn't raise or cause an alarm of inflation becoming out of hand. It's depressing the inflation numbers so that they can continue to print and play their game. Now, this is going to continue until it doesn't. Just like we've seen the United States government and many governments around the world sort of lose the control over gold, where the gold price has gone from $2,000 or $1,800 up to $4,000 an ounce within the last 2-3 years. We're going to see the same kind of loss of control with the oil markets. A $60 barrel of oil is insanely cheap. I mean, water is probably cheaper than oil right now. Bottled water, the equivalent of a barrel of oil. I mean, it's unbelievably insane that the lifeblood of the global economy relies on oil and gas to sustain it. And yet the prices of this commodity, or these commodities, these oil derivatives, are being systematically depressed to the point where it's my belief that we're going to have oil shortages, because you can only manipulate prices for so long before the actual physical commodity becomes scarce. With a low price of oil, yes, it generates economic growth. Yes, it generates low inflation. But the manipulation will cause shortages later on down the road. And I don't think that's very long out. I think maybe 2, 3, 4 months before we see oil shortages start to spike the price. They come out and they say there's a glut, but the glut really doesn't exist. So, lots of manipulation in the oil markets. It's my belief that there's lots of manipulation in the oil markets, oil and gas markets, and it's going to come to a head, and they're not going to be able to keep the beach ball underwater for very much longer. Eventually, inevitably, the prices of oil are going to spike much, much higher. My guess is between December and March, we're going to see much, much higher oil prices. And so that's the oil front. And it's all designed to hide the inflationary numbers. But all you have to do is look at gold, and you realize that, and Bitcoin, and the stock market, And you look and you realize that the inflationary numbers are not what they tell us they are. This is a truism. They are lies. They are manipulated lies and deception that's propagated by the governments in order to quell the inflationary numbers. So you can see some signs out there where these numbers are much, much higher, but they're not telling you that they're much, much higher inflationary numbers. But the signs that we could look to are the stock markets, the bond markets, the gold markets, the precious metals markets, and the crypto markets. So this is all occurring. I think gold will continue to go higher. I think at some point there's going to be a balance where it kind of slowly accelerates when it gets to around 5,000 per ounce. And we're not there yet. I think from 4 to 5, we still got room to run in gold. There could be a couple corrections on the way. There could be a couple corrections in the stock market. There's going to be lots of things that occur. Now, this oil price, let's go back to this. This oil price I could see this, and this thought just came to me. I could see a scenario where there's some kind of war or tariff war acceleration occurring because they need cover for higher oil prices. They know higher oil prices are coming because of the shortages, but they need cover for the higher oil prices. So Donald Trump just went off on, China made the chess move. They said, we're going to cut off rare earths to everybody. And Donald Trump said, 100% tariff if you're going to do that, So that makes things kind of crazy. I can see a scenario where you see this tit for tat with all of these nation states, and which causes the oil price to skyrocket. And then it will be blamed not on the inflationary environment that these governments are creating, including China, Russia, and all of them, Europe and the Western powers, but instead on these little tit-for-tat tariff wars or physical wars or whatever kind of wars that they need to have, cyber attacks, terrorist attacks, whatever they need to provide cover for the higher oil price and just justify the higher oil price, not on inflation, but on these little tit-for-tat scenarios that are occurring around the world. That is another strategy that these governments may have in order to hide the inflation. They will do anything to hide the inflation because at the end of the day, without the inflationary environment, they dry up and they wither away. Picture the government as a parasite, the global governments as parasites. They need a host to feed off. And they need to tell the host that there's no inflation out there. The inflation it doesn't exist so that the parasite can continue to eat. Otherwise, the host will disappear, right? The host will pull out. So they need to keep manipulating the host, telling the host that everything's fine. There's nothing to worry about. And if there is something to worry about, well, it's from this over here or this over there. And so that's their game. It will continue on. And we will see much, much higher oil prices. And possibly some breakouts of tit-for-tat wars will occur as well during this year or the end of 2025 into 2026 to provide cover for their inflation. That will occur. So at the end of the day, gold will go higher. There may be corrections along the way, but the trajectory for gold is much, much higher. The trajectory for the stock market could be much, much higher or higher. The trajectory for crypto markets could be higher, but there could be pullbacks along the way as these tit for tat. This is my theory. This isn't a fact, but I'm seeing this, last Friday when it occurred. It kind of makes sense to me why they're doing it, but you could see some pullbacks in these markets, oil, stocks, gold, crypto. But at the end of the day, the inflation is not going to stop. Governments are continuing to live off their host. And these prices are going to go much, much higher. So buckle up for the roller coaster ride, but know at the end of the day that the prices all of these assets will be much, much higher. And oil and gas in particular, and the reason for the primary thrust of this whole conversation is oil and gas are where the deals are at. I mean, that's where it's at. Oil and gas is so depressed, it's being held down so much by these governments, that there's a lot of value opportunities out there. The value proposition is immense when it comes to oil and gas. So, invest accordingly. I have invested accordingly. And I'm waiting for this assessment of mine or theory of mine to come to fruition. And we will see that in the coming months. With that said, I hope you all are doing well. You have a great week, and we'll see you in 7 days.